Today was day one of Miami Heat training camp in the Bahamas, and on today's episode of the Heat Report by Chat Sports, we're going to talk about the latest news and quotes coming out of the first practice of the season. I am Nic Rohloff, and before we get into the news coming out of the practice, let's hit that like button, because last week, the most liked video we got was Nasir Little being signed, and I got 162 likes. Well, today, Heat basketball is almost back. If you're fired up, hit that like button, and let's top last week's video. I will start with this interesting little tidbit, if you find it interesting at least, when it comes to Mr. Jimmy Butler. Butler obviously was late to media day yesterday and did not sport a fantastic looking different style of hair or anything like that. He was much more himself. Well, he actually revealed to media members today that he did have something planned like the previous two seasons, but because of his rough travel day and already being late, he just ultimately went as himself, which I'm happy about. And I got to be honest, I think it's actually a good thing that he showed up late because, listen, it's obvious that his mentality didn't change and he was going to do that if he was there on time. But I just don't want to see the optics, the antics. I'd rather just see a normal-looking, locked-in Jimmy Butler this season because that's what the Heat need. They need someone who's going to give them 70-plus games of regular season play at a level that isn't checked out half of the time. So hopefully Jimmy just shows up and is ready to check ball up top, as we're saying on Twitter nowadays. Let's get into some real news here, because 5 Reasons Sports Network, who is there covering them, they do a great job, so go check out their stuff and their podcast, 5 Off the Floor. But Jaime Jaquez Jr. told them that he liked coming off the bench last season. He's cool with either role, whether it is being a starter or coming off the bench, and then he also had his favorite moment of the year, getting respect from LeBron James. But this actually is a talking point, and in terms of, not the LeBron James part, but him being okay and comfortable in either role, whether it be starting next to Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, and Terry, or coming off of the bench. Because, well, we don't know who's going to start exactly, but it seems very likely that these 4 players will be starting. As I just mentioned, Terry, Tyler, Jimmy, and Bam, because Erik Spoelstra yesterday said that he's excited and wants to see extended minutes of these 4 guys playing together because they just were not able to have that last season with either Herro being hurt and off the floor or Terry Rozier or Jimmy and Bam. Like, you just never really saw the 4 of these guys playing that often together last season. And I think that's the main goal of Erik Spoelstra to start this year off. I think your starting lineup will absolutely be those 4 players with someone mixing in there as that 5th guy. Now, hopefully they find someone consistent enough to make that lineup work, but when it comes to Jaime Jaquez Jr. and bringing the conversation back to him, it could be him as that 5th starter if they want to go a little bit more smaller and have him at the 4, because he played some 4 last season. It could be Jovic. It could be some other names that we'll talk about here in just a second, and then we'll bring it all the way back full circle to talk about the Jaime Jaquez Jr. aspect of things. But let me know who should be the 5th starter. You see the 4 players, drop the player that should be in that starting group with them down in the comment section. I think the main options that Miami and Erik Spoelstra has in terms of who could start here are very simple. It's Jaime Jaquez Jr., it's Nikola Jovic, it's Haywood Highsmith, or it's Kel'el Ware. Because you have your 2 guards, you have your wings, so you're really looking at the 3 or 4 in this specific situation. And maybe you could start Kel'el Ware at the 5 and move Bam to the 4. I don't feel comfortable doing that because I don't think Kel'el Ware is good as enough to be as a rookie starting center, and I don't trust them to space each other out in terms of Bam and Kel'el to start off, so I eliminate Kel'el. The other 3 could very well be, and I actually would like to see Haywood Highsmith potentially start, and my starting lineup that I would roll out, I said it would be one of Terry or Tyler, Haywood, Jimmy, Jovic, and Bam. Now, it ultimately doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, which reveals it to probably be either Jaime or Jovic. I predict Nikola Jovic to be the starter, and there's a lot of reasons because of that, and the reasons that I am expected and excited to see the young man start. But I can be open to Jaime Jaquez Jr. being your starting 4 because he was absolutely phenomenal as a rookie last season, right? He exceeded all of our expectations right away about how good he was. After being the 18th pick from UCLA, no one expected him to be that dynamic rookie that ultimately finished in top 5 of Rookie of the Year voting and was on the first team all-rookie squad. But he filled in for Jimmy during injury. He filled in for Jovic at times during the injury. Like, he did so many different things for this Heat team, including closing games. It was just super impressive. And although he has the numbers that are deservedly to be a starter in the NBA. I think it benefits Miami to have him come off the bench. I want him to be our sixth man and super sub, if you will, because there's a lot to make of good teams having someone that comes off the bench completely fresh after 5 or 6 minutes of the game being tipped off and just gets to work right away. We saw the Heat when they were the best team in the Eastern Conference in 21-22. They had that with Tyler coming off the bench and giving them damn near 20 points a game, and he won Sixth Man of the Year. Not saying Jaime is going to do that, but he has the capability of doing that if he takes the second-year leap that we expect, specifically with this three-point shooting. Like, I think Jaime could be very, very impactful for the Heat coming off the bench to replace Jimmy 5 or 6 minutes in, or potentially Tyler or Jovic or something like that. Him being our sixth man would be generational. And last year it was Caleb Martin being our sixth man for the most part. You don't have him anymore. So you're going to need someone to step into that role. I think Jaime is that guy, and I think you should roll with Nikola Jovic as your starter. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're going to have more Heat news, rumors covered here on the channel. And when watch parties start up in just about a week or so with the preseason, we'll have you covered for that too. So lock us in here at the Heat Report. But let's now talk about Nikola Jovic, because if I do predict him to start for Miami, then there's a reason why I think that. And he only played in 46 games last season, and it's intriguing at the minutes played because his rotation was interesting. He would oftentimes play the first 8-9 minutes of the ball game as the starting four, not really play for the entire second quarter. So he would be at 8-9 minutes after the first half. And then he would do the same exact thing in the third quarter. And maybe sometimes he would play in the fourth quarter and sometimes maybe not. But he was very effective last year. And sure, he has his deficiencies at not being the most strength and strong person, not being the best defensively, but offensively, spacing the floor, being a 40% three-point shooter, playmaking, rebounding. It's really good. And why I think he should ultimately be that starting four between Bam and Jimmy is these reasons. He was a 40% three-point shooter last season. That, alongside Jimmy and Bam, who, yes, they're both improved three-point shooters. Jimmy shooting 41% last season. Bam starting to incorporate that into his game. But that versatility at his size is huge. And that added size is massive. Listen. Jovic is 6'10", 6'11". Bam is 6'10". You have an undersized center. Having someone that is as tall as Bam, if not a little bit bigger in terms of height and length, is huge for defensive rebounding. Being able to switch in Erik Spoelstra's switch-heavy scheme defense, that is very good for Miami, and it's why I think he should be in that opening group. But the playmaking ability as well. The Heat don't have a natural point guard in that starting group with Terry, Tyler, Jimmy, and Bam. They all can facilitate and play make for others, but none of them are out there averaging 7+ assists a game like a true natural point guard. Jovic, I'm not going to say he's going to do that, but for someone of his size and his youth, is phenomenal at making right decisions, whether it be the outlet pass, whether it be bringing it up the court and finding a shooter in the transition lanes or getting to the rack. His playmaking ability and decision and IQ is very, very good for someone of his age and really helps round out this lineup, which is why I'm so excited for year 3 of Nikola Jovic. Like I mentioned, it's his third year. He's super young. He's younger than Jaime Jaquez Jr. And the fact that he's entering his third year with all this talent, all this ability that could just blossom, I'm telling you, sure, a lot of people in the national media might count out the Miami Heat this season, but if Jovic takes a year 3 leap, Jaquez jumps up, the Heat stay healthy with Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, and Terry, this is going to be a good ball club. And it all hinges on terms of the ceiling of this team, Nikola Jovic and Jaime Jaquez Jr. Before we round out today's episode, make sure you get your gear before the season does officially tip off in 22 days. Heat shirt for $21 at chatsports.com/Heat shirt. Hit that link. It's going to be in the description and comments of today's video to get yourself some Miami Heat gear. All right, I do want some other practice notes here that I found funny I wanted to share with all of y'all. Udonis Haslem is back. He was doing deadlifts on the side of the Heat's practice court, and Spoelstra's glad that he's there. Jumped in a few practice drills. Good mentor, says Spo. Been in the organization for 2+ decades, and he continues to be. I like having Udonis Haslem around this team. I know some people might make fun of it and say, like, dude, move on. You're retired. Or just become a coach. But I think he is a very valued member of this organization. He has been teammates with half of this roster in the past, and I think he's a good calming presence for this ball club. All right, before we do get out of here, I did want to say, I said it earlier, 22 days away from the Heat's first game. It's October 1st. October 23rd is the Heat's first game. 22 days away. These are Jimmy Butler's last 3 years. Absolutely unbelievable. But like I said earlier, it's good to see Jimmy locked in with that new Robin Hood jersey. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel as we break down everything around the Miami Heat. I'm Nic Rohloff. We do a lot of work here to make sure you're covered, so hit that sub button. As always, see you tomorrow with a video. Go Heat.